All right, kids, we'll see you later on. But before we get to them, I get to talk to my friend Michael Joyce, former ATP great player himself, and of course, one of the best coaches in the world. Michael, hi, buddy.
Hey, Renee, how you doing?
Mate, how are you? You're over in Japan, hence the beautiful wallpaper behind you.
Right, exactly.
so Mike, I want to. Yeah, exactly. Mike, I want to get into a lot of things with you. You're first of all, you're such a great guy. You're super funny. Just full disclosure to everyone, we played world team tennis a couple of times together, and we won a WTT title together. We are friends from a long time ago. But Mike, you had a terrific win last week as a coach with Ashlyn, 19-year-old American, not getting a lot of publicity because a 19-year-old just happened to win the US Open by the name of Coco Gauff. But why don't you give me just a little bit on Ashlyn and what she's been doing over the last 12 months and the difference maker that you feel like you've made for her in these last 6 months in particular?
Yeah, it's very interesting because I've known her since she was pretty young, about 15, and I worked with her for a couple of years at USTA. And the last about a year, she's been traveling with another coach who was a buddy of mine, and so I've obviously followed a lot of her results. And she's been kind of slowly moving up the rankings. However, I felt kind of like it was a good time for me to start working with her again because there were a lot of things that I think she could still be improving on. And so we started full time about a week before the U.S. Open, and right away she picked everything up pretty quick, and she actually played a great match at the U.S. Open, but she lost this girl Buzkova, who is a tough player, obviously. Mm-hmm. And we just continued the momentum into Osaka, and she won the tournament. So it was I don't want to say it was a surprise because you never really want to say that, but to actually get through all those matches in straight sets and play such a consistent week was incredible.
You have coached some great players, including former world number one Maria Sharapova. You had a stint a long time with Jessica Pegula. I mean, it's endless, some of the great players that you worked with. And you were also a great player in your own right on the ATP. What are some of the things that you feel like this week Ashlyn learned about herself?
Well, I think one thing I'll tell you about her since she was younger, if she gets deep in the tournament, she usually wins it. She won the Orange Bowl a couple times from the Nationals, and I felt like as each match went on, I felt like not only her confidence grew, but her the mindset of how she wanted to play and what she was doing. I could feel the confidence kind of growing, and in the finals. We focused on some things. She's taking the ball earlier again. She's serving. She has a great serve. I mean, mm-hmm. She's had a really good serve, and she hits her spots really well, and she can be really dominant on the serve. But I think that's something maybe the last year or so kind of got put on the back burner a lot. So we worked a lot on her placement on her serve, playing her service games well, being aggressive, taking the ball early, and the courts are fast. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing, I think, was that the confidence that even when she was in trouble, I think she only lost serve once or twice all week. And in the finals against Lin Zhu, she never even faced a break point. Plus, it was super hot. So it was like she really focused and had the concentration for all the full matches, which, is why she was able to get through in straight sets. But to see the confidence grow and her identity as a player kind of improved the last few weeks is what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, because what people don't understand, you can hit the ball great, but it's actually mentally a lot more difficult to win a tournament because you have to actually believe in yourself. So that's a huge step for her. Mike, watching Coco Gauff win the US Open, I want your thoughts on just how much improvement she made in the space of 4 weeks, as I said, being a former player yourself and knowing how hard it is to adjust in a short period of time, but also as a coach, to be able to get a player to believe in their weaknesses like she did now and does now with her forehand. What was some of the things that impressed you about her run over the last 5 weeks?
Yes, it was an amazing run. I mean, as a player, the confidence overcomes sometimes some of the weaknesses you have. I think when you're lacking confidence, when you're a little unsecure, let's say that's when the weaknesses show up a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I mean, and as a top player and you're under scrutiny with the media and everything, they're always going to pick out maybe the one part of your game or a few parts of your game that need to work on. I think when you have a good coach and have a good team around you, and obviously as you start winning, a lot of those things all of a sudden start to improve. and then people think you make huge adjustments or change technique or all this, and usually that's not the case. I think that's what happened with Coco. I think after losing early at Wimbledon, she changed her team a little bit, brought in some different voices. I think her parents took a step back a little bit, and then she won DC, and she played it turned that into Cincinnati. And so going into the Open, I think she had the first round or two.
First round.
Yeah, first round. And once she got through that, I felt like she was just as big a contender as anybody. It's not like she made some drastic change on her forehand. Anybody that would want to do that with her at this point in her career, I think is crazy, to be honest. So
yeah.
I was kind of happy to see her fix a lot of those things, but I think it had a lot to do with her mentality, her identity, and then obviously her confidence, because she's such a great athlete and great player. I think it was just a matter of time before all those things came together.
Yeah, I think
so
that's
surprised me at all.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. And I do believe that the confidence is where she started to make the shots that she wasn't at Wimbledon or prior to that. And there's no doubt about it. I mean, she's the fastest mover around a tennis court I think I've ever seen. And I got a bit of crap on the old social media, saying, what about Steffi and what about, Serena at a peak and all that. Yes, they were all great movers, but for me, she's the fastest I've ever seen.
Yeah, I actually remember maybe it was 3 years ago, she played Tamea Babos at the U.S. Open in a tough second round match. And yeah, everybody moves differently too. Some people move better offensively. Obviously, some people, defend better. She's an incredible, covers the court. She reminds me a little bit of Kim Clijsters in her prime, where she glide and get balls back that other girls can't. And that's almost the same as, stepping up the line hitting a serve like Serena did, or something that other girls can't. And I remember her playing Tamea, a tough three-setter, and she got some balls back, pure athleticism that Tamea had never even seen before. And it really does a lot for the mentality of the other player, And so that's once she got through those first couple matches, in my mind, I felt like she was a good favorite going in.
Yeah, I think that's. And you were coaching Tamea Babos, that's why you know how many balls were coming back. So you were like, again, she's getting it back again. Yeah. So Mike, knowing that your player, for example, that you're working with right now is 19 years of age, also American, I want to know, do you have those conversations about, look, Coco's 19, she just won a Grand Slam. There's no reason why you can't start thinking a little bit even higher than just winning a tournament like Osaka, like to actually start believing in yourself more and more. What are the conversations that you have with a player like that?
Well, a couple things. I mean, first of all, I don't like to compare, especially a younger girl. I don't like to compare to another player, like age-wise. I mean, even though on paper it's true, but I feel like I feel in some ways. I mean, Ashlyn also. It's a good relationship because I've known her since she was young. I mean, I met her when she was 15. We spent a lot of time. I took her to Junior French Open, Junior Wimbledon. I've seen her mature. I mean, when we first went over to Europe, I mean, she's from, Texas, small town kind of. And I think she started playing really competitively tournaments at 12 years old, even a little bit later. So, somebody like Coco or some of these younger, even Maria, were kind of anointed as great players at a super young age.
Yeah.
Ashlyn's a little bit like, even this week after winning the tournament, that she's getting all these messages and this, and she almost is like, which I like about her too, which was Jessie was like that too at a younger age. So I feel like Ashlyn's going to do things on her time, whether it's tennis can be a long career. She's not even close, in my opinion, like physically to like Coco yet. Not just because, I mean, she's a great athlete, don't get me wrong, but like the stuff that Coco has had when it comes to training and fitness and nutrition and the team around her. I mean, right here, it's just me and her in Japan. And at the Open, I was talking, I have a lot of experience. So obviously I know a lot of good trainers. So I'm just kind of starting to bring a lot of that stuff to the table. So I feel like in matters of not just tennis, she's a little behind a lot of those girls. But she's 19. So, I mean, Coco, I think, is getting to the fourth round of Wimbledon, 16 or whatever she did, is kind of fluky in a way at this time in tennis. So I want to kind of bring, same thing, like she could have played a tournament in Guangzhou this week, And I made a decision on Friday to, even before she won the tournament, to skip that week and then and she's going to play Tokyo next. So I want to do things slowly, if that makes sense with her. That's also how that's how she processes things, which also I think helps the success long term, because I know kind of what makes her click. I mean, I have tremendous confidence in her mentality and her game, but it's going to happen on her terms, and there's no rush, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's so well said, and I think that it's super important for these young players to have people like you who have been there, not only as a player yourself, but also seen, you know, a Maria Sharapova through those years of 16, 17, 18, 19 years of age, and become number one, win a Grand Slam and all that sort of, and say, listen, these are the mistakes we made. These were the good things we did. I mean, I actually have to say, like, even with Coco, I hope she doesn't play for at least 2 or 3 weeks after winning the US Open.
Right.
You know, it's a conversation with Sam Stosur said when she won the US Open, she wished she'd taken more time off rather than go straight to Asia. So I think it's good that you pulled out of Guangzhou. And first of all, Guangzhou is so bloody hot that I'm surprised. I'm glad you didn't go. Just let me tell you, I've been there.
It was hot, Osaka, unbelievably hot, but Guangzhou is even hotter. But you would not believe how hot it was in Osaka last week. When she played semifinals, I looked at my phone at one point. It said it felt like 107 in Osaka. So I was thinking the court was 120, and she's from Texas, so she handles it pretty well. But it was hot.
So, yeah, I know. We know what it's like to play in heat. You know, before the heat rule came in, you just had to keep playing.
Right.
But Mike, what's the difference between, because you've been around so many players, what's the difference between a great player, you know, we're talking multiple Grand Slam champion, and a very good player? Because a lot of people kind of sort of don't understand, like, why does this player win and why are they not winning? And I want to know, from your standpoint of seeing so many really wonderful tennis players through your career, like, what's the difference maker?
You know, that's a great question. It's so small, as you know, that sometimes you can't always put your finger on it. But I feel the inner confidence. If they have a bad match, if they have a bad result, they don't take it always with them for weeks or months. Everybody's going to go through, you know, tough. Even Coco, I mean, you know, she went through some tough times and stuff. But I think that inner belief, whether they're born with it, whether it's the people around them, it's how they grew up. I think that's one of a huge thing as a coach. I mean, that's one thing I'll say about Brad Gilbert. Probably the biggest thing in some ways that he brought to Coco was the fact that he believed in her. He has a good way of kind of rubbing off on the person, almost believing they can accomplish anything. And I try to do that as a coach as well. I mean, you have to tell them the truth and work on it. But I think a good coach also can help bring out that inner confidence in the player. And in women's tennis, that goes so far, because obviously there's so many. And nowadays, I think it's even more important, because all the social media and all the opinions, players are able to read so much stuff, whether it be, and to be honest, most of the stuff is negative. Not always in a bad way. It's just, you know, people are critiquing your game, critiquing so many issues that a player who's a little bit insecure tends to focus on that. And I think a good coach, a good team, and a good player is able to really believe. I mean, look at Serena, look at Maria. I mean, they could go out there, lose the first set, you know, hitting balls a little, missing balls, nervous, everything like everybody else goes through, but they know that their style of play, or they know, make a couple of adjustments, they know that that's how they play their best, and they're really confident that that's their game. And all the years of working with a lot of different players, the players that are always kind of questioning, oh, am I doing this right? My mom told me this, or this person told me that. You know, they might not say it to you, but in the back of their mind, they don't truly believe that what they're doing is always going to work, always the best. And that little bit of doubt, I think, is the difference. I think the great players have this self-belief that even if they lose a match, or it's gonna work out, and those are the ones that are able to break through.
Yeah, true, so true. I want to just ask you real quick. We've only got about a minute to go, but what are your thoughts on the American men, Mike? Because I know you spend so much time coaching the women, but what about the American guys with Tiafoe struggling? I think Tommy Paul missed an opportunity at the US Open. Of course, Ben Shelton had a great trip, but who's going to break through?
It's actually funny. Somebody asked me that last night. Listen, the positive is we have a lot of great players right now, but towards the top. And for me, it's kind of special because being a couple years with the USTA, I saw a lot of these players when they were a little bit younger and seeing them come through. I love Ben Sheldon's confidence. I know all this talk with the phone, phone ringing and this and with Djokovic, but in some ways I like that because you have to have that belief. It's hard to say. They're all very good. I think Fritz, I've always liked Fritz a lot. He's been kind of one of my favorites because of his game and his consistency. But I think it's going to take somebody like Ben Shelton. I love Porter, the way he plays. He's had a lot of injuries. But I feel like somebody like a Shelton, as he gets old, because he's still really young. I love his game. I feel like maybe he could be the one that could win a slam in the next few years. But ultimately, Alcaraz, Djokovic, I almost feel like one of the Alcaraz will be around for a while, but I feel like Djokovic has a couple more years that he's going to be obviously the favorite in most of the tournaments. But my favorite right now, I think, is Shelton, just because of the fact he's so young. He doesn't shy away from pressure. It might take him a couple of years to be in the process to where he could actually win a slam, but I'll pick him as the next guy that wins a slam.
Yeah, I think with his huge game, huge serve, huge forehand, we certainly can.
And he has room for improvement. He can improve a lot.
Huge amounts of improvement. That's yes. Really true. That's coming from a true coach's standpoint. But I know he can get better on his backhand. Anyway, Mike, I so appreciate. I know it's super early in Japan, so I really appreciate you getting your butt up early and off to breakfast. Get your cinnamon toast and a nice cup of coffee.
I think I still have jet lag days later, but
anyway, buddy, I really appreciate you joining me today. I wish Ashlyn all the best, and please tell her congratulations from me and from everyone here. Well done, my friend. I know you've done a great job with her, so I appreciate your time today. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, Renee. Great.
All right. The wonderful Michael Joyce, and he is actually very funny as well. Anyway, we got a little bit to go on this show, so.